Hey y'all, I'm Paige Feldman. I'm a writer and director, and here on this YouTube channel, I'm documenting the making of my debut feature as a writer-director. It's called Back to You, and it's a contained romantic comedy, and this week I started working on a lookbook for the project, which is my first real work that I'm doing as a director for this script, for this film. I say script because I've been working on the script for about a year now, and it's sitting and resting, waiting until I am ready to do a table read on it until the WGA strike is resolved so I can do a table read on it. And usually I would be like, I started working on the lookbook this week, hey guys, here it is. But because of my recovery from my medical issues, everything's going a little bit slower than usual. I'm having a little bit less time than usual. So I thought I would talk about the process of making a lookbook, just basically from the what is a lookbook and what are the things you need to create one. Because one of the roadblocks I hit when I was starting to make this lookbook was, even though I've seen a lot of them from my prior work as an executive, I wanted to kind of get a basic rundown or what are the elements that you need in a lookbook. And I looked that up, and the resources on that were not fantastic. I have a cat on my lap suddenly. Okay, so anywho, when I was starting to make this lookbook, there weren't a lot of good resources that I could find that very quickly listed out all the things that you need in a lookbook, all of the specific pages you need to make, the items you need to take under consideration. And so I thought that I would take this opportunity to create a sort of quick and dirty guide to what you need in a lookbook so that none of you have to go down the same Google rabbit hole that I went down this past week. So here we go. First, I just want to start off by defining a lookbook so we're all on the same page. A lookbook is a document that describes in words, but mostly in pictures, the director's aesthetic vision for the film, the director's tonal vision for the film. It talks about mood and the meaning behind the story and themes, as well as going into very basic filmmaking elements like what is the film going to look like? What is the cinematography? What is the editing style going to be? What's it going to sound like? Who are the characters? And it does it all in a deck, which is, you know, like it's a few pages. It's easily digestible. And again, there are more pictures than there are words. That's the most important part because film's a visual medium. Now, there are other tools, marketing tools for films, because that's what the lookbook is. It's a marketing tool where you can use it to communicate your creative vision to either potential members of the creative team, like actors, cinematographers, editors, producers, or help sell the film and sell you as a director of it, like to financiers, or again, also to producers. There are other marketing tools for films like mood reels. The thing that separates a mood reel, let's say, from a lookbook is that a mood reel is, first of all, a video, and second of all, is only reliant on pictures and potentially music. The lookbook combines pictures and words to give you a sense of what the film's going to be with the pictures and explicitly tell you about that using the words. It's like a picture book sales tool, I guess. One thing the lookbook does that's really important is that it describes from the director's point of view, because, I mean, if you're the writer and director, it's your point of view as well, but when the script gets into the director's hands, it's all the director's job to choose a clear vision and path forward with the film. And so what the lookbook does with all of these words alongside the picture is explain what the important things to the director are about the story in terms of theme and tone. What does the director want the story to be? What do they want the film to be and be communicating? And this is really important because I've seen amazing scripts fail miserably when they've been filmed because the thing that the director is so passionate about is very different from the thing that the producers loved about the project. And so you have two people coming at the same story from different sides. If you want to hear more about what this is like, I have a video. I'm going to put the link up here describing this disconnect and how I've seen it ruin projects and how it's the most important thing that you need to worry about when you're selling your story. But I digress, so let's get back to the lookbook. First, what do you need to start making it? The only thing you really need is a clear story in your head that has a beginning, a middle, and an end. While I find it super helpful and it just makes more sense to me to make a lookbook once you have the script finished, you don't necessarily need a script for it, because the lookbook is a visual tool to sell your vision of your story. If you don't have a script, as long as you have a story with a clear beginning, middle, and end that you're happy with, you can go and make a lookbook. And it might even be a really fun way to figure out how to outline your story, how to outline your film, to do it when all you have is just a 2-page treatment. Then you're thinking about the story visually before you've even written it, and so you have this document in your vision to go back to while you're actually writing the script. I find it helpful to wait until you have a script to make a lookbook, because I see the lookbook as a sales tool, whether it's selling a potential creative partner to coming on board and helping me out, or literally trying to sell the movie. I want to be able to give them this document, and if they're excited and want more, I want to be able to ride that excitement to the bank or to a potential partnership and give them the script and give them that more and continue the dialogue. But what you need for a lookbook is just a clear story with a beginning, middle, and end. So you have your story. Now that you're thinking about your story, we'll jump into the written components. The story needs to have a title. It doesn't need to be the final title, but you need a title for it, because untitled, cool project might be a great way to save your script in your computer, but it's not a good way to sell people on your story. Then a log line. I have a video on creating log lines here. They'll pop up here. Well, it's a video about a more non-traditional approach to a log line than when inciting incident, protagonist must goal or else antagonist will stakes. That formula. So I have that video there. And then you also need a short synopsis for your story. This synopsis doesn't have to be a full-on beginning, middle, and end. I would actually advise against it, using this as a sales document. The idea is that you want to entice people to read more and learn more, and if you give them the whole story right there, unless maybe you have a story with a really killer twist and that's the sales point, that's the hook, then give the twist away in this. But I think the point is to give them the essence of your story in something that's like a book blurb, like the inside of the book cover or the back of the book cover, that you can read and kind of gets a sense of what is this film about. And then you need an artistic statement. As much as writing these is kind of annoying for fellowship applications, I love writing them for lookbooks and for the films, that the stories that I've told and that I've realized, because this is the point where you get to say, why do I love this story? What about this story speaks to me personally? And what are my inspirations that I'm drawing upon to like help bring people into the world of the story? The idea of this personal artistic statement is to help people who are reading it connect to you as the director and as a person, as a human being who has something they really feel passionately about and want to speak about through this film and through this story. You have an opportunity to help people relate to you, to bring people on board and help them see your vision of the world and through your aesthetic and emotional vision for this story. And this is the point where you get to share your why. Why are you telling this story right now? What about it is so important and special to you? And what about the story do you connect to? What lens are you seeing the story through? A metaphorical lens, not necessarily the camera lens. That'll come later. And that's actually a good segue into the next part. Once you have all of this these story narrative elements, you can get into the more nitty-gritty of the filmmaking stuff. You'll make a page for each story/filmmaking element with examples of what you mean in terms of your vision for it. So I have a list I'm going to read them from because I want to be as accurate as possible. You should have a page for your inspirations, which is movies or pieces of art or TV shows or books, but most prominently choose films, choose other things within the medium that you're choosing, that you're doing, that you're making, to help people kind of get a sense for the tone and style and what what you really want to bring to this story, so that it's something that they can picture, and they can say when they're reading the synopsis, oh, it's sort of like Palm Springs meets music and lyrics, but without the time travel, time loop element, which are two references I'm going for in Back to You. Then characters, your locations, your settings, the cinematography and lighting, just the overall look of the film. Sound, how is the film going to sound? Sound is so important. Editing style, editing techniques. Are we going to go mostly mise-en-scène with everything happening within the frame? Are we going a lot of frenetic editing? Are we doing Jason Bourne style? Are we doing long takes? Think about the look of your film once it's cut versus the look of your film as you're filming it in camera. And themes, which just thematic elements you want to really hone in on. And this is very similar to the artistic statement, but I want to add a separate page for themes because I think maybe I have a lot to say, but also it seems important to really get into the nitty-gritty of the story and not forget the story so much in the lookbook, because a lot of times the synopsis kind of gets overlooked when you're an exec reading through it, sorry to say. So for all of those pages, you're going to use some words, but you'll mostly need pictures. And for the images, I'm using stock image sites, ShotDeck, which is a stock image site that specifically has film stills from major films. It is a paid site. You have to pay for a subscription, but hint, there's a 14-day free trial. So if you're making a lookbook and you know exactly when you're going to need to use it, you can start your 14-day free trial and then not give them your credit card information, and you'll have the images that you need for your lookbook free of charge. Then I'm also using other stock image sites. My two favorite ones that are free are Unsplash and Pexels, and they have really great quality of images. Really, and it doesn't look necessarily like bad stock photos. You can find really beautiful images there. So I'm using a combination of these stock image sites and ShotDeck, which has images from film stills, to compile all of the images I need to get everyone who's looking at my lookbook a sense of my aesthetic vision of the film. So that's all you need to start creating a lookbook. But before I go, I want to give you one tip that I kind of discovered for myself as I was working on this. On all of those pages about filmmaking elements, you're going to want some words along with the pictures. While the images are the focal point, especially of those pages, you want to be able to focus the person who's looking at your lookbook, focus their mind on what's important about all of those images. You don't want them to see the wrong thing and get the wrong idea because you just weren't clear. My instinct about that was to start writing all of my thoughts and feelings out about all of those elements. I started writing paragraphs and paragraphs, especially about my characters. And then as I was finishing up these paragraphs, I realized, oh, I did all that work in the script. So I have been scouring my script now for pull quotes to describe all those film elements, all the story elements. So my character introductions, specific lines of dialogue that really speak to their character, specific action lines that speak to their character, lines describing the house, the setting that we're in, and then even lines that describe how the camera moves across a scene. Though as far as the cinematography, editing, and sound goes, it's good to also just describe it as, naturalistic, or the way that I described in Terabang, my short form comedy anthology, was it's documentary style, but it's the best looking and most intentional documentary you've ever seen. Like, the camera's maybe a little bit shaky and we're on a steady cam the whole time, but everything's lit beautifully. Everyone looks great. So you don't necessarily have to pull from your script, but remember that if, when in doubt, you've already done the work if you have the script. And also that the focus should be the images. So try to keep it short and sweet, and potentially even pull images before you write out what you're looking for to help you focus what your words are going to be. Because describing something that isn't there yet, which is what we're great at as screenwriters, is actually counterproductive for the lookbook. So that's all I have for you today. Hopefully next week I will be able to share with you my lookbook, or at least part of it in progress, to give a sense of how all of this is going. But until then, have a great week. Good luck on all your creative projects, and thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week for more Cake Fight Presents The Making Of.